I almost pitied the poor girl until I came out of work and found the words, "You deserved your miscarriage," spray painted on my car hood. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Gray Between, where we explore the stories that thrive in the space between right and wrong, clear and confusing. I'm your host, as always, Lola, and together we'll dive into the captivating tales of Reddit and beyond, where life's most complicated moments take center stage. In a world that's rarely black and white, we're here to navigate the in-betweens, offering fresh perspectives, thoughtful advice, and plenty of heart. So get comfortable and let's journey through the gray together. This first story that I'm going to read was actually highly requested by a lot of you guys to read off of Reddit straight up. So let's go. Am I the asshole for leaving my boyfriend for quote unquote no reason? I, 26 female, have been with my now ex-boyfriend Eric, 28 male, for 2 years. Overall, we've had a good relationship, nothing crazy, until last night when things completely fell apart. We were out at a bar with some of his friends, just having a normal night. Drinks, food, the usual. Eric and his friend Mark, 28 male, were joking around, and Eric made a comment about how much Mark was eating. Something like, "Careful, Mark, you'll eat the whole damn bar." It seemed harmless at first, just typical guy humor. But then Mark looked right at me and said, "If only she knew." It was one of those moments where you instantly feel uncomfortable, like there's something going on behind your back. I had no idea what Mark was talking about, and the whole vibe at the table shifted. But before I could even react, Eric exploded. He went off on Mark, screaming at him to shut the fuck up, and even tried to get physical. His other friends had to hold him back. Mark didn't really react, which only made Eric angrier. The whole thing was awkward as hell, and we ended up leaving early. When we got back to my place, I couldn't stop thinking about the comment, so I asked Eric, what the hell did Mark mean by "if only she knew"? What don't I know? And instead of just answering me like a normal person, Eric lost it again. He started yelling at me, telling me to drop it and stop being paranoid. He was dodging every question, getting more pissed every time I brought it up. I wasn't trying to pick a fight, I just wanted to know what was going on. It felt like there was something important being hidden from me, and I wasn't about to let it slide. But every time I asked, he'd just get more defensive and angry. Finally, he stormed out of my apartment. He doesn't live with me, so I locked the door and called it a night. I didn't hear from him until this morning, and when I did, it was just more angry texts telling me to drop it and leave him alone. At this point, I was done. I'm not going to sit around and be treated like I'm crazy for asking a simple question. I texted him back saying we're done. I need space, and if he can't be honest with me, then I don't want any part of this relationship. End of story. Now here's where it gets worse. He's been going around to our mutual friends, telling them that I left him for no reason and trying to make it seem like I'm the one who overreacted. Some of them have even reached out to me saying I should have just let it go and that I'm blowing things out of proportion. I told them to mind their own fucking business. I don't care what they think. None of them were in that moment, and none of them saw how he acted, and none of them have to live with the pit in their stomach that I've had since that weird ass comment that Mark made. I'm not about to stay in a relationship where I feel like somebody shady is going behind my back. If Eric can't be straight with me after 2 years together, then what's the point? So, am I the asshole for leaving him over this? Again, I always hate when it comes to relationship situations and something happens and they complain to someone else and they reach out on their behalf saying, "Hey, you overreacted in the situation." It's like, no, you don't know how I felt. You don't know the whole thing, and I don't need someone else's opinion unless I ask for it about my own relationship. If something BFFR, anyone in this situation, if they had heard that, and regardless if it was guy or girl, and their partner reacted the same way that your boyfriend did, high alert. Something is off, something is wrong. And the fact that he's pushing it off and not trying to tell you and making it seem like you're paranoid makes me want to dig even deeper. And I would 1000% leave too. Because if you can't even tell me this, what else are you hiding? Or how bad is it that you don't even want to tell me? How can you build a future off of someone who won't even trust you? Now, with that being said, we do have an update on this. So I'm really curious okay, now here's our thoughts. What do we think he did? I have no clue. I have not even read what happened or what. I think, no, but he made the comment off of his weight. That's why I have no idea. Or okay, maybe I'm guessing that her boyfriend made fun of her weight before the other people. That's the only thing I can think of because it was about him talking about how much people are eating. Okay, so this is her update. I feel like I'm living in some kind of twisted nightmare, and the more I try to make sense of it, the worse it gets. Mark called me today while I was at work. I didn't expect him to call me because he was ignoring me, and I stepped outside to take the call. And he told me something that I never in a million years could have prepared for. I just read the next sentence. No fucking way. Oh my God. He told me that Eric has been putting other men's He told me that Eric has been putting other men's semen into my food, drinks, skincare, shampoo, conditioner, and even my toothpaste. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic. That's what Mark said. Eric has apparently been hooking up with random men, having them finish into cups, and then using it in my meals and drinks like it's some kind of sick joke. Even as I write this, I'm still in complete disbelief. Who does that to someone? Not even his own. Random men. Whoa, this is disgusting and not the way. Oh my God. I don't know if I can continue reading this. Okay. Mark said he found out about this a week ago, but for some reason it took him that long to tell me. A week. I've been living my life completely oblivious, trusting Eric, someone I loved, while this was happening behind my back. I feel so betrayed, so disgusted, and so violent. When I asked Mark if he and Eric were having an affair or if this was some sort of twisted thing between them, he swore they weren't and even made a gross comment about not wanting to touch Eric because who knows what disease he has. That made my stomach turn. I'm getting tested for everything now because I don't know what's been in my body. When I got home, I went straight to the kitchen. Mark told me to check under the sink, and there they were, the cups, hidden behind the cleaning supplies. I lost my shit. I threw out everything in the kitchen and bathroom, even stuff I knew wasn't touched. I don't care. Everything feels contaminated now. My home doesn't feel like a safe space anymore. Every time I walk into the kitchen, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I can't even function without my mind going to dark places, thinking about all the times I had no idea what was happening. I don't have any solid proof of this. It's just Mark's words in those disgusting cups, and I feel so powerless. If nothing can be done about this, I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. How is this even legal? How can someone get away with something so vile? I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust anyone again. This whole thing has been messing with my head in ways I can't even explain. I feel dirty. I feel like I've been violated on such a deep level and there's nothing I can do to undo it. My mom wants me to check into a hospital just to make sure I'm okay mentally. And honestly, I'm going to do it. I don't feel stable right now and I don't feel like myself. I'm scared I might hurt myself or someone else. Eric was eating the same food. He was eating the food that he had contaminated right alongside me. Was it a kink? A power trip? I don't even know anymore. All I know is the man I thought I knew, the man I loved, is a complete stranger to me now. I can't believe I've been living with someone capable of something so vile. I feel like I'm losing my mind and I don't know how I'm going to come back from this. How could he do this to me? I'm genuinely losing it and I'm a danger to myself. I'm going to check myself into the hospital. Oh my God. There has to be this. There's no way this is not illegal. I have read a lot of stories in my years of doing this, but this one, holy moly. So many questions, right? The legal sense of things. I really hope you can get some sort of justice for this because that is, I don't even have words. I really hope you can get him for something like that. Two, my mind goes to I love to hear both sides of the story. But what in the world could possess someone to do something so vile? I don't know. Why? That's I just can't even fathom the reason why anyone would do this to anyone. Forget someone you love, your girlfriend, your significant other, your partner. That is just, oh my God. I just feel really bad for her too. Oh my gosh. That is... Oh. Am I wrong for snapping at my friend after he asked an inappropriate question about my short boyfriend? All right, here's the situation. I, 28 female, am 6'1", and I've been dating my boyfriend Jake, 30 male, for about 8 months. Jake is 5'4", which makes him quite a bit shorter than me, but honestly, I don't care. He's sweet, funny, and we have an amazing connection. I've never been hung up on height, but my friend Dave, 29 male, who is 6'4", seems to have a problem with it. At first, David made the usual jokes like, do you have to bend down to kiss him? Or does he need a booster seat when you go out to eat? I rolled my eyes, but I brushed it off because I thought it was just playful teasing. But as time went on, Dave's comments got more frequent and increasingly inappropriate. One night, we were all hanging out at a party. Out of nowhere, Dave asked me, so, do you ever feel like a giant? Is Jake your personal little action figure? Everyone stopped talking and I could feel Jake tense up next to me. He laughed it off, but I could tell it bothered him. I was furious but didn't say anything at the time. A week later, we were out for drinks with a larger group and Jake and I were having a great time until Dave decided to open his mouth again. He leaned over with a smirk and said, hey, How do you two handle things in the bedroom? Does he have to stand on a stool to get the good stuff? I felt my blood boil. This was not the first time he made this inappropriate comment, but this one crossed the line. I turned to him and snapped, "What the hell is wrong with you? That's completely disrespectful and it's not funny." Dave looked taken aback and I continued, "You act like this is some kind of joke, but it's just cruel. Jake is a great guy and your comments make you sound like an insecure jerk." The table went silent and Jake looked a bit shocked, but I could tell he appreciated me standing up for him. Afterward, Dave texted me saying I overreacted and that I embarrassed him in front of our friends. Claimed I was making a big deal out of nothing and that he was just trying to lighten up the mood. Some of our mutual friends think I could have handled it better, but others agree that Dave had it coming. So, am I the asshole for snapping at my friend after he asked an inappropriate question about my short boyfriend? This guy sounds like he picked in high school. Like, that kind of humor is absolutely like just the worst childish thing you could ever say. I'm just curious. I feel like, are you sure he's not into you? Because that's something people say. His joke just like might be an expression of his frustration that a shorter guy was able to get what he couldn't. Because I don't think it's not that usual for guys to focus that much on height. Because I know that's an insecurity of them all. Is that because they can't control that? Wouldn't you be happy as a guy that a short guy bagged a tall girl? I feel like he pays this much attention to it because he's jealous that he got you. I think he also wants to make one of you, either him or Jake, feel self-conscious about being with you so that one of you leaves and then he can swoop in and try to get with you. He's a jerk. And jerks hate being called out. But I'm glad you did it. I would do the same thing. I hate when people say, well, no, you overreacted. You're not in that situation. You don't know how many times it's happened and it's a reoccurring situation. People snap. He thinks it's funny. Like, I hate when people make disrespectful jokes like that and think it's funny. It's not. Like, you can't, like, you have to look at people and like not smile at all when they make stupid jokes. And you have to be like, that's not funny. Don't say that shit again. And then they won't. But you've continued to enable that behavior. Of course, they're going to keep doing it. Am I the asshole for telling my wife that my life would be better without her? My wife, Annie, and I have been married for 13 years. I am 43 and she is 46. We do not have children. When we first began dating, nobody could make me happy like Anne. She always seemed to know exactly the right thing to say to me when I was down. But over the past decade or so, she has really started to show her true colors, and a lot of what her ex-husband said to me about her has begun to make more sense. For example, I have a very high-stress job. People bring me problems and I fix those problems. But when I get home, 9 times out of 10, Anne just has more problems to throw onto my plate. She doesn't work, so she's free to do anything she wants to solve said problems during the day. But lately, she has even begun making lists of things she wants me to do after I work all day. But my biggest issue with Anne is that I can't ever really open up to her about anything. Whenever I try to talk about something bad that happened to me, she'll either try to one-up me or agree with the person who wronged me. Last Friday, I had a horrible day. There was an enormous problem at work that basically all fell on my shoulders to solve. When I was crossing the street after work, I had a green signal and a bicycle blew through a red and side clipped me. The cyclist yelled expletives at me and then rode away. I thought about calling the police because it was technically a hit and run, but there was probably nothing they could do. When I got home depressed, I talked to Anne about what happened. She listened and then immediately took the cyclist's side. I reiterated that the cyclist ran through a red light, to which she responded that cyclists aren't obliged to stop. When I told her she was wrong and tried to put the issue to rest, she began frantically Googling laws. She found out that in our state, they can treat lights like a stop sign. She began triumphantly reading the law to me loudly, word for word, getting louder when I kept trying to tell her that I wasn't interested. At the end of her spiel, she gave me this incredibly arrogant look as if she was right. I just stared at her for a second and said that my life would be better without her. She got incredibly upset, shrieked at me until her voice was hoarse, and then packed a bag and left to stay with her parents. She has texted me all weekend demanding an apology, but I haven't responded. Did I do something unforgivable here? I would like to know more about how she sucks the life out of you. And I'm curious of how that conversation went with her ex-husband. Also, like, if I'm mad about something and I leave the house, if I'm not in the wrong, I'm never going to text someone and be like, I'm waiting for an apology. They should know that they did something wrong. They would apologize. But if you have to ask for it, I feel like she is just looking for a reason to come back to the house because she feels like she knows she did something wrong. But I can't stand people like that who have to have the last word, even though sometimes I'm kind of guilty of that, like most people are. But I think it's different when it comes to your spouse, whoever you choose to have as your partner for life. Like when they come home to talk to you, like even sometimes with my family, I'm like, are you telling me this for me just to listen, like have a lending ear, or are you asking for a response? But I don't understand, why would you, anytime that happens, like in like something that happens like that, I'm always like, yeah, they're wrong. Even like you gotta gas that person and be like, yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. Like that stupid ass cyclist, like I would have hit with my car if I was there. Like you gotta do that. But why would you want to why would you want to make your partners be wrong, especially when you see that they're in a bad mental state? Like why would you want to add to that? So he does have an update and I'm curious to see where this goes. 2 weeks ago, I had an argument with my wife, Anne. This argument stemmed from Anne's insistent need to contradict me in everything I say. Anne left in a fit of rage to stay with her parents, and then kept spamming me with texts demanding an apology. A few days after Anne left, I felt something I hadn't in a long time at home: peace. I didn't have someone nagging at me about literally everything I did. I didn't have to eat my meals in the correct order, something about pH balance that she probably saw from some brain rot creator on TikTok. I didn't have to wash my feet after getting home. I could actually enjoy myself, which is impossible when Anne is around because I found many years ago that she tends to get more aggressive when I seem like I'm either in a very good or very bad mood. I then did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to her ex. He was more than eager to talk about Anne and her shenanigans, so we met up for drinks. He and I both had near identical experiences with her. Anne is, through and through, a pretty horrible person, especially to her romantic partners. He cited irreconcilable differences for divorcing her when it was no specific event, but just a long list of terrible interactions and coming to the realization that he detested her as a person. During this time, Anne went silent on me. I used this lull in our relationship to visit a lawyer who told me that due to the nature of laws in our state and the fact that Anne is able-bodied and educated, the chances of me ever having to pay alimony are basically zero. I called Anne at that point. She, for some reason, still expected an apology. I told her that I wanted a divorce, and she threatened to take everything from me. I said she could try, but any further contact should be done through my lawyer. I'm fully happy to split our assets fairly. I'm fairly sure Anne will agree to any deal that gives her more than half. It's just the way she is. And if it's a 55-45 split, I don't care. All I'll have to do is act like she got the better of me, and since she's an idiot, she'll happily agree. Thanks to everyone who responded in the last post with advice. Tons of you suggested divorce, which I think was what actually got me to consider it seriously. It's a little scary that you could fall in love with someone so much and then just be sick of them this is not one day, right? This is all built up. I think this is a good reminder to people that you have to treat others kindly. No one has to deal with your bullshit, especially your spouse. And then once they realize that their piece is priceless, they'll pay anything to get it. Would I be the asshole if I pressed charges on my brother's girlfriend after she called my family white trash and continues to harass me after my birthday dinner? The people in this situation of mine, aside from myself, are my husband Mark, 35 male, my brothers Owen, 29, Jack, 28, Kyle, 27, Rob, 27, and Finn, 26, along with my best friend Margot, 32, Owen's fiance Trish, 29, and Kyle's partner Ro, 28, and Finn's newly serious girlfriend Annie, 23. For additional context, I was a parent fight sister and basically raised my brothers. I helped them learn how to cook and clean, helped them with homework, and took them to extracurriculars, helped them figure out scholarships, trade schools, college, and basically made them into the men they are today. My brothers are very aware of the situation that I was in, having to take on parental duties, and thus do not treat me like one. I am their sister, and they treat me as such, which of course means having a few crazy sibling traditions, which is where my situation stems from. I, 30 female, just had my birthday pass. Mark decided to help Owen organize a celebration dinner since everybody had something to celebrate. Owen just got engaged to Trish, Jack just had a huge pay raise, Kyle started an online shop, Rob bought his first house, it's a motorhome, and Finn just started his first serious relationship. So Owen organized a huge dinner at a pretty fancy place, with my brothers and husband each planning to split the tab with Margot and omit me since it was technically my birthday and thus shouldn't pay. Fast forward to the dinner and we're seated in the back due to having so many people. Everybody's having a great time, laughing and sharing more information about their life, when Margot has an old video pop up on her phone memories. It's a video of a birthday dinner when I was a teen, and it showed my brothers giving me birthday bruises. You may have heard of birthday punches. Well, it's basically the same concept. However, due to my brothers being massive hulks of me and me being no more than 5'1", they opt to flick me instead. So I'll get a tiny bruise instead of looking like I was jumped. Rob decides to start with the birthday bruises tradition, and each of my brothers opting to flick me 6 times, so this way I get an even 30 flicks, with Margot and Mark each giving me 2 for good luck. Did it look strange? Probably, but we already stood out in the restaurant since we had so many people. And it's not like we made it a big show. I simply went around the table to each of my brothers. Trish and Ro were laughing, well aware of the family situation and that it was all in good fun. But I did notice Annie didn't seem to be comfortable, so when she went to the bathroom, I decided to check on her. Old habits die hard. I didn't approach her until she was washing her hands and asked her if everything was okay. She simply sneered and said we were embarrassing and low class. I told her that I didn't understand the attitude and that tonight was meant to be happy and we were just being ourselves. To be completely honest, my words were along the lines of, this is who we are. We're siblings. We hit each other. It's not that deep. She once again sneered and said, "Well, this is a place where it's not okay to be yourselves," with a mocking tone. She then stormed out of the bathroom, so I returned to the table. She was sulky for the rest of the dinner, and when the bill came, she tried to drag Finn off. This started a little quarrel with my other brothers, who all agreed beforehand to split the bill. Annie stepped in and said I could pay for them since white trash makes do. This started a fight with Margot, who threw wine on her and said, "You want white trash? You got it. Go, Margot!" I tried to take control, but Annie was already trying to get on Margot. Ro and Trish took her outside, and the rest of us settled the bill and apologized for the disturbance to the staff. When we left, we saw Annie swinging at Trish with Ro trying to get in between. I immediately stepped in and told Annie to leave, that until she apologizes that she wasn't allowed at any family gatherings, and told Finn that if she ever tries anything to call us immediately. Finn said that wouldn't be a problem and broke up with her right then and there, telling her to call a cab. He was apparently very upset to be called white trash and didn't like how she talked to me. He also later said that she looks like she would accuse me of something and that she's apparently done it to her ex. The problem I'm currently dealing with is Annie's social circle. Annie apparently comes from a pretty affluent part of our community. Like went to a private school and had a personal chef and nanny, kind of rich. Her and a bunch of her wealthy friends have tried to defame me, sending emails to my boss and coworkers. I told them to reply that they would be forwarding the email to me and I'll sue for harassment and defamation if she continued to do this to me or any of my family members. The emails haven't bothered most of my coworkers, but I have a select dozen that already didn't like me and now are using this to make my work life hell. I've already spoken to my boss about it, and they are monitoring those coworkers' emails to assure Annie isn't sending anything. Margot told me I should go ahead with my threat the next time someone gets an email and file defamation charges along with harassment and emotional damages. The thing is, Annie is 23. She's barely out of school, and this will wreck her life. I know she's attempting to wreck mine, but I can't help but feel like taking her to court is excessive. Am I being too nice? Would I be the asshole if I followed through and pressed charges? Absolutely not. No. I think people have to understand the consequences of their actions. That's nice of you to be like, hey, she's 23 and she's just starting at life. But I feel like people like that who are very privileged have never been humbled and they get everything they want and they think that they can get away scot-free without any repercussions in life. Actions have consequences. That's the real world. I would only be lenient on people that like children and people that I probably was once close to. I don't know. It really does depend on the situation. But I don't think you'd be doing anything wrong by going ahead and pursuing this. So with that being said, she does have an update. Firstly, I want to thank everybody in my prior post. I have a tendency to overthink and it makes decisions like this incredibly hard. A lot has happened in the past 10 days, so I'll just give the events in order of happening. 2 days after my post went up, Margot's car got egged. She and 2 of her neighbors caught the perpetrators on camera, and 2 of Annie's flying monkeys were taken into custody. And boy, were these girls rats. They sold out Annie in a heartbeat. I almost pitied the poor girl until I came out of work and found the words, "You deserved your miscarriage," spray painted on my car hood. What did I tell you? She deserves this. Info. I suffered a miscarriage at the beginning of the year after one of my students, I work in a behavioral school, kicked me down the stairwell. I've been trying to help another teacher and there was a security guard also present, but the kid just kicked my shin and nobody caught me in time. I was 6 months along when it happened and suffered it while at work. It was a whole scene with ambulances, admin staff, district staff. Meanwhile, I was just bleeding and crying. I was given PTO for 2 weeks, and by the time I returned to work, everybody knew. I got plenty of soft looks. Everybody made my food and tried to make me feel better, even the ladies who didn't like me. I was just thankful summer vacation was coming up. I took photos of the vandalism and presented it to my boss, since the paint was still wet, which means there should be camera evidence. They told me to sit tight and they would take care of it. After 30 minutes, my boss, one of the coworkers who didn't like me, and 2 security officers came back. Turns out the coworker who didn't like me had fed Annie that information and was promptly fired on the spot after being forced to apologize to me. They also had security look through the parking lot footage and got the license plate of Annie's car screeching out of the parking lot with her tossing a can of spray paint out the window and denting another car in the process. Police were called and the spray can was taken as evidence. I was advised to get a lawyer and press charges. At this point, I decided to talk to a lawyer. When I got home, I consulted with one the next day via a virtual consultation. He offered to do the case pro bono as he had a bone to pick with Annie's mother. Not my business to tell, but whoa, was that story crazier than mine. What? No, I want the lawyer to say his side! We drafted all evidence into a compiled document and went through with pressing the charges for the damage to my car, as well as harassment and emotional distress. Let me tell y'all, I was expecting there to be a blowout when this happened, but karma ate her up. apparently Annie has more than just what she did to me. The coworker whose car she dented when she threw out the spray can was pressing charges. Margot was also pressing charges for emotional distress. Also turns out she had been going after my brothers. She and her flying monkeys were review bombing Kyle's shop, and they slashed 3 tires on Rob's mobile home. She had been sending complaints to Owen's boss through customer service lines, and she had stolen Jack's fence surrounding his house. Who the fuck steals a fence? Apparently, the mounting charges finally caught Daddy's attention because he had everybody who was pressing charges come to one of his properties to talk it out. He had paid her bail and was keeping her in close proximity to assure she didn't get into more mischief. Margot said she would be bringing her lawyer and advised everybody else to do the same. So it was actually pretty funny watching Annie's face as we all pulled up with our lawyers, with the exception of Finn, who was just coming as a character witness and had a file of evidence all on his own. She had been harassing him and blackmailing him and was ready to feed these absolutely damning evidences to the pack of lawyers who were attending. It's worth to note that I had not gotten the spray paint removed, so when Annie's father saw it, you could see the boiling, quiet rage in his glare. Annie's father, who I will dub Hunter, also had his lawyer present. The sit-down lasted 2 days, with all of the lawyers going over the different charges and appropriate ways to punish them. My coworker was simply paid out, with some extra financial compensation and a few coupons from Hunter's business. Jack was returned his fence, and Hunter paid to have it reinstalled, repainted, and for a 10-year warranty. All the false reviews were removed from Kyle's shop, and Hunter paid for any lost revenue. Hunter also contacted Owen's boss, who he apparently went to school with, and set the record straight. Hunter also decided to pay for Trish and Owen's honeymoon as excess compensation. Damn, Annie's parents got money. That's why she feels so entitled. That just left Margot, Rob, and I. The lawyers, us 3, and Hunter agreed to accumulate the charges into one case, and Hunter was able to wrangle the district attorney to come and try to strike a plea deal. I can't say much about that since the case is still ongoing, but just know that Annie will be paying for her crimes. Hunter offered to get me a new car. I had been driving the same car for 10 years, and I told him I'd settle for a used one. Hunter made a fuss by saying, I didn't raise my daughter like this. This is all her mother. Like, wow, this woman must be a demon if even her own husband throws her under the bus like that. So Hunter is taking me car shopping. Wifey is apparently pissed that Hunter isn't covering for their little princess, and Annie is getting her just desserts. Funny how money is indeed a very powerful thing, as Hunter even got the case to be moved to priority list, and thus proceedings will be sped up. To top everything off, Hunter said all the payouts will be coming from Annie's inheritance, which is why he was okay with giving out so much excess compensation. God, Annie's face. I wish I could have photographed him. I have no issues updating once the proceedings are finished. I will make sure to keep a spare tab open just so I don't lose this throwaway account. It seems to be a pretty happy end for me. I didn't expect it to be solved in under 10 days, but Hunter is a very nice man. Maybe the Gen Zs shouldn't eat this rich, he's a good one. He even invited Mark, Trish, and Ro out for drinks to discuss compensation for the scene at dinner too. Right now, I'm just relaxing on my sofa while Mark makes popcorn. We're about to binge some cartoons. We like spending our Sundays like that. I will be back one last time after the court proceedings, and maybe another if my lawyer gives me permission to tell his story about Annie's mom. Whoa. All right, you guys, time for the final story of today's episode, and that's going to be the viewer submission where you guys email me, message me your own personal story that you would like read on the podcast. So here we go. I, a 32 female, recently got into a heated argument with my best friend's new boyfriend, 34 male. Just to provide a little backstory, they've only been dating for 3 to 4 months, and she's already head over heels and living with him. I'm happy for her, honestly. I am. I haven't met or even spoken to him yet because my bestie, 28 female, did not want me to meet him. I read people very well, and she expressed that if I were to meet him, I would be the last to because I will see things nobody else would. I was a little offended, but let it go. They also live 5 hours away from me, so there's that. Pause. Wouldn't you want that person's opinion first before you fall head over heels for someone? If I knew I had a friend who could read people very well and be like, hey, how's this guy? I would want their opinion. Why? When you're in love, it's over. You're not going to listen to nobody. You're just stupid when you're in love, and you're not going to. All the red flags could be blaring at you and you're not going to see it. So I don't understand that. You're just kind of setting yourself up for hurt. So it's like, I'm going to let you meet him after when I already love all these things and are blinded by his bad. And then I want your opinion or I don't care about your opinion. So it's one of those. On to the debate. My bestie and I were talking about the recent school shooting that was done by the trans man in Texas. She had me on speakerphone, which I didn't know at first. I always say, first thing I do, answer the phone. Hey, you're on speaker. Anytime you're not like this and you're like this, I'm like, hey, you're on speaker. Common courtesy. That's also a manipulation tactic too by men when they just tell you put on speaker and they don't want the other person to know. So yeah. When the information came out that the shooting of 3 innocent children was done by a woman that identifies as male, I simply said, I wish they didn't release that tidbit of information because I feel like it would cause the anti-LGBTQ plus activists to use that as another excuse to spread hate towards the rest of the community. I didn't think it was fair, and to which she replied, they've already started in the comments. My bestie goes on to tell me that Niecy Nash mentioned losing her brother to gun violence in 1996. She said Nash said the issue isn't the cancellation of drag shows to keep the gays from forcing their agenda. The problem is the lack of gun control. I agreed and her boyfriend decided to chime in. He brings up that it's true because we have to call people and what they wanted to be called, not what they are. And they even have drag queens reading books to kids at the library. Oh my God, not this conversation. So I replied that he was speaking about one event that may have happened a handful of times that people chose to go to. If people didn't want their children exposed to certain things, that is what parental controls are. Everyone has and is born with free will. So if you didn't want to support a drag queen reading to your child, then don't attend those kind of events. I said the world will be going around whether you are in it or not. You don't like LGBT plus people, that's fine. But just like you can choose not to support, you can choose not to defame and abuse them as well. As I am saying this, he is going off, saying I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm ridiculous, and he's cursing and being aggressive. She's constantly telling him to stop. When I realized he was seriously mad, I said, aw, that's cute. You're really mad because my opinion doesn't align with your opinion. He curses some more and I ignore him. Anyway, my way out of the conversation and talk back to my friend. He continues snapping in the background and I said out loud, yeah, I don't like him and I don't ever want to meet him. He snaps again and I just ignore him. That was 3 days ago and I haven't spoken to my bestie since. We had a short exchange about the ordeal the next day when I told her when he's around, don't call me. She told me that she felt like neither of us had respect for her because neither of us thought about her and decided to agree to disagree. I told her me defending myself is not for a lack of respect for her and I don't feel that's how it should be weighed. Am I the asshole for arguing with my bestie's boyfriend or should I have just left the subject alone altogether? No. There's a lot wrong with this. Not on your part, on your bestie's part and her man's. If you care about someone, right? Like my potential spouse, whatever, when they're meeting my best friend, my close friends, like best behavior. Even if you don't agree with what they say, there's a way you can go about it. You can just shut the fuck up and not talk because she's obviously on the phone with her best friend and not with you. Your input was not needed on this and let her have her friend. You guys don't have to interact that much, but there's no need for you to get rude and disrespectful. I think, right? I would never, out of respect for whoever I'm with, I would never get into an argument with them like that the very first time I'm meeting them on the phone. Like imagine he's talking to him and I just come butt in and start like, I wouldn't do that regardless of what it was. Like that's just not that I wouldn't care enough. Like, hey, that's your friend. That's on you. Like I'm not gonna, or something that doesn't even apply to him. Like I don't understand this relationship from my perspective. Oh my God. Hi, look here. How long has that been there? This relationship from my perspective is going to be one of those ones where he's 1000% already telling his girlfriend, I don't like your friend. You can't talk to her. She doesn't respect me. I should be your first priority. So she's going to hear all that because A, she's with him. B, she's 5 hours away. 3, she's in love. When all that stuff happens, you're blinded by everyone else. That's how they get you. They get your vision with your friends and family here and they make it like this. Straight, solid. And that's all you can focus on is like your spouse. I mean, your partner. And that's what's going to happen here. Either things are going to happen. One, she's going to realize that, hey, this guy's a possessive, weird, controlling asshole. He should not talk to my friends like that, especially first impression. Why would you do that? Or 2, she's going to cut you off and pick him and then he's going to hurt her. And then maybe one day she'll come to the realization that she was being manipulated. That's the only 2 ways I see this going. It sucks. I'll tell you this much. It sucks being the friend, watching someone you love, a close girlfriend who you look at like that, watching her be manipulated by a man and not realizing it. At the same time, she's a grown-ass adult. There's only so much you can do. If she makes that decision to stay with him and be with someone like that, there's literally nothing you can do. Say your piece. I just find it weird that she wanted you to meet him last. I care about people. I care about the opinion about, how do I say this? I care about my close one's opinion about who I choose to be with in my life. You don't have to, but that's how I am. And if I had someone who, I value certain people's opinion on someone, that's like the first person they're going to meet. Because if that person, like my brother or sister, those 2 people, like I value their opinion a lot. If they say Malala, I get bought. I don't think this is it. I would listen to it. You can't, I don't know. I was going to come up with an analogy, but I couldn't. Yeah, that's all I got. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of The Gray in Between. If you have a story that you'd like me to read or share a dilemma, please don't hesitate to reach out. Remember, life isn't always black and white. There is beauty in the gray. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep exploring the in-betweens. Bye!